And short shorts are the best shorts. Look good, feel good, walk stupid long distances.
I mean, true.
That's the quote, right? Like,
it's close. It's very close.
live, love, laugh, something like that.
Can't spell slaughter without laughter?
Yes.
Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 352 of Canadian Patriot Podcasts, the number one sad pistol noise podcast in Canada. We're recording on June 6, 2022. As always, my name is Andrew. I will be your host.
Need your help to support the Canadian Patriot Podcast. Visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. I'm sure you're not a communist and buy a CPP t-shirt for just $24.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com homepage and follow the link on the right.
This brings us to... What I miss?
Nothing.
This brings us to my favorite segment. It's called What Are We Drinking? It's where we obtain plausible deniability. At least that's what the lawyer says. We'll start with Liz. Liz, what are you drinking, and how have you completed something on the Patriot Challenge recently?
Drinking a lot of coffee. It's the Bieber brew. So, way to go, Tim Hortons. You've officially got more gay than you were before. But
what does that say about you drinking it?
Means that I embrace it.
So is this like a soy latte?
Happy June, everybody.
Yeah.
June, everybody.
Does it smell like... never.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what you think
No.
it might smell like. But actually, it's probably like my fourth coffee of the day because I just finished an exam. So that is my like skill building, learning a new thing. I've spent the last 2 days studying. So,
Well, that's good. That's important.
Nice. Well, there you go. I'm drinking beer this evening. I've got a Coors Original, and then I got a Budweiser here, some leftovers that are in my fridge that I'm trying to get rid of. And the thing that I did, aside from all the things I normally do, is I learned a new skill. I sheeted a roof the other day. Big ass, giant 90-foot shop, and it took us all freaking day. But I now know how to drink on a rooftop. So.
That's awesome.
Skill is a heavy word for learning how to
Yeah.
drink.
Yeah. What about you, Peter? What are you drinking this evening?
I am drinking Coors Original.
Twinsies.
I drank a lot of water and Powerade today.
Well, that's good.
I'm improving my life by actually starting to stretch for the first time ever. So, well, not ever, but you know, my back says I need to. So,
You finally listened?
sort of. I'm doing it about like a third as often as I should be. So we're getting there.
But that's still like a third more than you were, right?
It's 100% more than I was.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
As for myself, I'm raising a glass to the death of Uber Daddy with some Jack Daniels and cola of unspecified origin. I also did my 45 minutes plus of exercise, which used to only take me 45 minutes, and that actually led to the requirement of 2 liters or more of water.
Oh, it's my turn. Sorry. I'm drinking whiskey. And one thing I did to better make myself a gooder person was I went out to on Saturday to the range day, the National Firearms Range Day thing or whatever at our local club that we were trying to get on. And we actually chit-chatted with a person and we planned on chit-chatting more.
wait, you chatted
So-
with somebody?
Yes.
And you're going to do it again.
Pierre now has two
Plan on-
local friends.
Yeah,
Two.
I don't know where this. Yeah. So, but no, it was good. It was a good chat. Kind of kept it on the down low about my political views of a lot of things, but we'll wait that for the second meet or when I don't want to talk to him anymore. But it was good. Hopefully, gonna interact a little bit more, get more involved, because as you'll see from later on in the show.
All right.
I mean, yeah, because like gravy the curds, poutine did nothing wrong is more like a second meeting thing than a first meeting thing.
Yeah.
No. I am drinking Alora Borealis from Alora Brewing Company. It tastes not unlike licking a pine tree. A very, very tasty pine tree.
How do you do it?
Honestly, Alora makes pretty good beer. It's just a pale ale. It's not crazy hoppy or bitter. So I think they only use like 2 kinds of hops. So it's delicious.
So it's actually
not
balanced. More
yeah,
or less?
it's a very tasty pale ale. It just tastes a little bit like a pine tree, like the right amount of pine tree. In terms of the Patriot Challenge, I have done all of the things. I exercised for 45 minutes. I practiced a skill. I drank my 2 liters of water. I tried to overthrow the government. No, wait, that's the other thing. I've forgotten what all's on the template because I don't have it written down anymore. But I've done all of the Patriot Challenge things today. I really should probably print it out and put it on my beer fridge.
Yeah, at least then you'd see it when you go get one.
That's right. And maybe I would remember it because it's been a minute. But I did all of that.
Put it on the coffee maker as well, unless beer is the first thing you drink in the morning.
I mean, it depends.
Depends on the day of the week.
Yeah, well, like so
Directly
yesterday
across
was
from the
Sunday.
toilet. Yeah.
Yesterday was Sunday, so I made sausage and eggs for breakfast and had a beer and then did yard work. Wherein, you'll be very proud of me, I drank a bunch of Coors. Like I drank a case of Coors.
By yourself?
Well, yeah, there was nobody else to help me do yard work.
I guess Coors is kind of weak beer, so.
Right.
That's like, okay, I went to range day, not at my own range, but at a different one. And let me tell you, there is a significant difference in beverages when the bar is run by baby boomers versus like any generation below that.
So you're saying I'm not getting a beer that tastes like a pine tree?
No, I forgot that there's Molson Canadian and Bud Light and Labatt. And that's about it. I forgot those existed.
Labatt 50?
I don't really know.
Oh no, that's only if you're like in northern, air quotes, Ontario or Quebec. Can you get a couple of Saint-Gons?
And then you might get the Pilsner with little rabbits on it too.
Yeah.
No, these were not either of those. Not that creative.
All right. We don't have listener feedback this week, but if you want to send us an email, feedback@canadianpatriotpodcast.com. At some point, I will read the show email because I accidentally did a thing to my email, and I have not gotten around to fixing it.
So we potentially have feedback, and you're just saying no?
There's just no way to know.
Okay.
Someday I'll figure it out. The probably the reason that we're really here, we're going to talk about gun bans. Because the internet got mad at us last week. The YouTube comments were all like, why are you talking about some terrible book? Why are you not talking about pistol bans? And partly because the last Monday of the month is book club, and also because the news was hours old, and I had not had the time to do the research because I was finishing the book.
Let's be real. Andrew was itching to bitch about that book.
Yeah.
He's been waiting.
I was
Yeah.
itching, but I did see my physician about some penicillin, and that got taken
I
care
got taken
of. So.
care of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which he got from reading the book.
Okay, I was just going to say delete the contact, but sure.
It was 100% the book's fault. Not for in vitro use.
Yeah, no pregnant lady should ever read that book.
No, God, such a terrible book.
I don't think that I would recommend it to many people, although I did like read some parts of it again or listen to some parts again this past week. And I mean, in a really dark way, I kind of appreciate the book.
Well,
Yes,
you should
in a
watch
dark,
the movie
awful
for his
way.
weird white jockstrap codpiece thing, and
I don't know.
As
if I
was the
wanna
fashion of
add a
the time.
visual.
yeah,
I don't think I want a visual.
The way I
Height of
feel about
fashion.
it is distance makes the art feel stronger or something.
Grow fonder.
Something like that.
Grow fonder.
It's
There you go.
close. It's close.
yeah.
Get
I mean,
the
I'm never
gist.
going to listen to it or read it again.
Yeah.
I asked Audible for my money back.
How'd that go?
I got my money back.
Really?
You did?
Well, there you go.
I
Yeah.
want to get my free credit back. Does it
I'm
work?
Yeah, well,
gonna
I
try
mean-
that now.
They didn't even ask me to write a reason why. I had a whole paragraph ready to go.
They just saw the
Yeah,
title
no,
and
like-
they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
that
like-
bin.
I was gonna buy the book, and I'm really pleased I didn't that week. But we just subscribed to Audible
I have a
little while
Dead
ago.
Tree copy as well that I am not able to return. But
You are able to
I-
burn it.
I
I'm
when
gonna
I start
email
burning
and see if I
books,
can get my
it's
free
near the
credit.
top of the list. Not because the themes weren't bad, but last week's show we covered this. This week,
If
gun
you
stuff.
feel-
Yes.
If you
Yeah.
don't want to like burn books, just like save it for the day that you run
Who
out
said
of
anything
toilet
about-
paper.
Not wanting to burn
Yeah.
books. I'm
Yeah.
starting a list.
Okay.
The pages are already covered in shit. Why would you use
Yeah.
it as toilet paper?
Ooh, that's not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so last Monday, the what was that? The 30th of May.
Speaking of things
Right.
covered in shit, yeah.
Well, yes, our brown-faced, black-faced, assorted costume-wearing prime minister, along with the minister of public safety, announced that they're going to ban. Or, pardon me, I shouldn't say ban. That's not what they said. They're going to freeze the transfer of legally owned pistols in Canada.
Yeah. I'm surprised he
And-
didn't show up in a Mr. Freeze outfit when he put that down.
You wanted us to take him seriously, though.
Really missed opportunity for him there.
Yeah. Maybe he didn't want to get sued by Arnold.
Well, I mean, I'm sure Arnold would have let it slide. 'Cause
Arnold.
He's pretty lefty as well.
Well, I mean, California, that's stands to reason.
But like, I'm a chance to wear a costume and face paint that would not have upset anybody. Really
No,
missed
it was
opportunity on Trudeau's.
It was
part
white.
there.
I mean, you can paint your face white all you want. Nobody's gonna say anything.
But yeah, this bill
Yeah.
is a giant turd. Bigger turd
Well,
than our prime minister, I think.
Maybe we can talk through a couple of the high level items. So the big thing, national freeze on handguns. No newly acquired handguns to be brought into Canada, and existing owners will be prevented from buying, selling, or transferring their legally owned handguns. Whenever this comes into force as part of Bill C-21, which went through second reading.
So what you're saying is that it's not enacted yet. It's coming.
It's
when
not
that.
Well,
enacted
it's
yet.
a bill. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a bill that is now in second reading. And
Yeah.
first reading of C-21 apparently happened last year, and somehow they're still going forward with it. I didn't realize you could bring bills forward into a new reading, or into a new sitting without having to reread them from the beginning.
Actually,
And with significant changes.
well, actually, no. I'll argue with you guys on this, but it's actually C-21 was the bill last year. C-21 is the bill this year, but surprisingly, not. It's actually a different bill. The numbers just happen to line up and be 21 again. It is actually a different bill.
Ah. So when
So
did they do first reading of this in this parliament?
Like RFN, they did it as soon as they could, and then they did the second one like minimum time later. But
Because I seem to remember
What is
reading
that
that
minimum
C-21
time?
got first reading in 2021.
yeah, I thought it was like the CCFR was saying it's actually the old C-21 died with the ending of the session there with the election.
Well, it should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so it just happens to be the 21st bill coming through this time again. So,
Well, and that's fine. It can be C-21 in, what was that, Parliament 43 and 44?
yeah.
I think are the numbers. But that's fine. I thought this was its second reading now because it was originally read in April of 21, which would have been prior to it dying. So there was like a procedural thing I didn't understand there.
Yeah, I think they can do a second reading within like 24 to 36 hours or like two
shit.
sitting days. Like it's the first two readings aren't the
So
problem.
fast.
It's the consultation and the review through committee and a bunch of other stuff that they have to
Yeah.
go before you do the third
Going to
reading.
Senate and potentially
Yeah.
getting kicked back and all of those
The
things.
Senate won't kick it back.
Do you
Well,
think that this is going to create a huge influx of handgun purchases before the fall?
It already has.
It's already happened. And I mean,
Well,
we
but I
have...
mean-
It already has.
Yeah, but okay,
there's no
so-
handguns to be had. There just simply are not.
There are stores that are
Knuckle.
literally sold out of everything because everyone panic bought their like non-restricted rifles
Yeah.
prior to the 18th of May. And then 2 weeks later, this garbage drops. And so there are gun stores now in the country that don't have anything unless they happen to have like short barreled rifles that don't fall under the handgun ban or the backdoor registry. They might have a few of those in stock. So if you wanted like a 6.5-inch B&T grasshopper mouse, you could still get that. But everything else, fucking gone.
People got so desperate they even bought revolvers.
Yeah.
I thought about buying a revolver the other day. Just
Actually,
thought
I
they're
did
cool.
also
I
thought
bought
about
one.
buying a revolver.
I bought the cheapest revolver I think in Canada. I got one of those Ruger Wranglers for 22.
Oh, there you go.
I had my eye on a bunch of other
I was
revolvers.
gonna say there's a new one that just came out from Colt that I had my hands on the other day, and I was like,
Yeah.
if I
The
had a
new
couple
Python?
I was like, if I had a couple $1,000 sitting around.
I kind of want a new Python, but I really want an old Python.
I got to shoot one of the older 357 Pythons over the weekend
They're
and a
just-
500
they're-
Smith & Wesson.
Oh.
Well, that's just silly. I mean, I want one, but that's silly.
Oh, yeah.
You're just
It was
jealous,
awesome.
Andrew.
I am jealous because I have
I'm
I like
jealous.
guns that I can shoot. I shoot most of my guns pretty frequently. A 500 Smith & Wesson. Well, I mean, but like in Gavin's case, it probably goes nice with his elephant gun.
I mean,
What,
that's cool too.
you have like a 457 Weatherby or something?
458 Win Mag, close enough.
Yeah. Yeah, well, whatever. 45W. I was very
Yeah.
close.
It's 4570 on steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't see an issue with that. I wouldn't go with the 500 Smith
Yeah.
& Wesson for practical purposes.
But if that was
But I
the
mean-
only gun left to buy, I'd buy it.
Right, and if I wasn't going to try to do like IPSC revolver with it,
That'd be fucking boss, though.
I mean, it
Would
would
you make
be.
power factor? I don't know.
I feel like yes.
Yes.
I feel like yes.
Oh man, that like when people hit the little steel, it flipped it all the way up. It was awesome. Oh my god, it was a good time. But yeah,
But,
gun
there is an
sales are
article.
Insane.
I dropped an article from CTV News about that, but it's everywhere. And anecdotally, I mean, looking on the internet today, there's nothing. There's a few guns at a few stores, and they're
Yeah.
oddball, weird guns. Like if you want a $2,000 Hudson 9 Canadian Tactical
Yeah.
Cowboy Supplies, still has one left.
Yeah, or
If
like
you
a
want like some weird,
STI or the gun, not the disease. The
I was gonna say what?
heyo.
yeah, they have some
Um,
of those. Like high end stuff is still floating around, but even that's rare.
But your run of the mill Glock, Smith and Wesson, CZs, everything under say $1,500 is sold out.
Oh,
There's
good.
still a few Turks around.
You
Yeah.
can find the odd Turkish gun, you can find the odd high end race gun, but the vast majority
Those
of
Turkish
pistols
guns
are
will probably be gone
sold
in
out.
the next day or two. Like, and there's definitely some gun stores that are saying fuck it and like stomping on the gas and trying to bring in as much as they can in order to sell it because they have the fuck you mentality. And I
I
appreciate
understand that. Firearms Outlet Canada literally had a truckload of Glocks that was being sold as they were being offloaded from the truck.
Yeah, and I know for a fact that Select Shooting was selling guns that they had the serial numbers for, but had not necessarily received yet. So as long as they have the
Nice.
serial number, they can sell it. So they
They've
were doing
started the
that as
transfer
well.
process. That's
I-
amazing.
I don't want to give it away because I'm waiting for a gun to come in, and they're hopefully going to hold one for me. But there is another gun store that has a massive shipment coming in today. They're not open today, so hopefully I will be able to buy my thing tomorrow. But like, so there are some companies that are like still sticking the middle finger up in the air because they know that they've got till fall.
Well, two things. Is it sticking the middle finger up in the air, or is this an opportunity to make a quick buck and clear their inventory and or whatever they had that was on order? Because I don't know what the terms are in this. A lot of
sure
industries
it's a
like
little,
Yeah,
a little bit of all of those things because
right. Some of it is probably a profit motive, but some of it is probably how much of this stuff can we get into the country into people's hands? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't trust your average business as much as I trust your average politician, because everybody's in it to make a dollar.
but
At
at
the
least
same
you
time,
know
though,
that
the-
the store is motivated to make
The
money.
gun stores are going to be hurting down the road.
Yeah.
because they're only going to
They're-
sell certain things. So I have no problem with them trying to make their money while they can.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. They're feasting
true.
right now with all the
Yep.
the speculation and the bans coming down, but moving forward, they are going to be feeling it big time. But yeah, I'm
Well,
sure it's a little
I'm
all
not
of those.
I'm not complaining. I just wonder how much of that is profit motive, because we've seen that.
As
Oh, that was a while ago. There was a scare probably at the beginning of prior to COVID. They talked about an AR-15 ban, and the CCFR and a bunch of other people were like, "It's coming. The AR-15 ban is coming," and then it was like 6 or 8 months, and the AR-15 ban finally showed up.
yeah.
But do you remember that? That was the end of
Yeah,
what, like
but-
2020 that happened?
Yeah.
19.
And then basically trying to find any AR lowers were like it was impossible.
Just couldn't be done. And I mean, eventually they did come out with the AR-15 prohibition through order in
Yeah.
council.
They were just waiting for the right tragedy to drop that. Yeah.
Well, not
Much
unlike
like
our
they did
pistol
on this one.
freeze.
Yeah.
Something dumb happened in America? Let's make a law.
Yeah. Yeah. As we
Sounds
get
like
closer
Canada.
to fall, it's going to be, as a business, less and less profitable to bring in shipments, because you're going to get to that point where you may potentially get, like they did with the AR, stuck with a bunch of stupid expensive stuff and not be able
Which-
to sell it or return it.
I think maybe for our less firearms informed listeners, not that I think we have very many of those, but obtaining a handgun in this country is not the most straightforward of tasks. So if you wanted to get a handgun, what would you have to do to get that now, before this freeze comes into effect?
We'd have to get your RPAL first,
Okay.
if you don't already have
So
that.
I need to sign up for a course and get on a wait list.
Yeah.
Then I need to take a weekend class. RPAL's 2 days? I think it's 16 hours.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it
turnaround
doesn't...
time is insane though. Like from taking the course and submitting your papers to actually getting your license.
What's the
Depends.
current approval time? Is it still 4 months? Has it gone up?
Oh, it's
They
gone up
say
well.
that it's like 3 months, but it's taking way longer than that because of the COVID.
Well,
Okay,
a lot
so
of people
let's-
stopped working. So
Well,
it's
let's say
almost-
that you
it's
go-
almost a year. Last I heard, it's
Yeah.
almost a year turnaround from submitting paperwork to getting licensed. Almost a
So
year
let's
now.
say you wanted to get your license. You have to find an instructor who's teaching it. You have to get on their schedule. You have to pay your... I think the RPAL is like $200.
A little bit more than that. I mean, if you do the whole thing, I think it's like $350 or whatever for the.
Yeah, I think it's $350 if you do
Yeah.
everything. But if you want to just do your RPAL, I guess your PAL and your RPAL, so you're into it for a couple $100. You wait for however long it takes to get into the instructor. In my area, that's probably a couple months last I heard.
Yeah, you write the test over the weekend. They submit
And
your
then
paperwork.
you wait
get it
your-
back in a month, and then
You get
have
it back
to send,
in a month because there's the mandatory wait with the RCMP while they think about it.
and then you
The
have
mandatory
to
wait, I
actually-
believe, is 30 days.
Yeah, and then
30
you have
days.
to submit your paperwork, which at a minimum takes 3 months until you get your license.
Well,
but we know
so when
it's
you
running
submit
a
your
lot longer.
paperwork, you need to submit all your biographical details, all of your conjugal partners for, is it ever now?
2 years.
All of your is it 2 years?
Yep.
Yeah,
I saw
And-
the paperwork recently because I just was a witness or a character reference for somebody.
yeah.
Well, I haven't seen the current paperwork since the rules have changed for
I just saw it.
RPALs.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
So you
Conjugal
have to get
partners
your
forever. So does that mean like
2
you gotta
years.
think about
two
no,
two
but-
years.
2 years.
But if it went to forever, like what if you don't talk to the person that you dated when you
It
were
doesn't. It
18?
goes for 2
Oh,
years.
so
So
by
it's moot.
conjugal partners, they don't mean people you've just had intimate.
It's
relations
actually
with.
common law partners.
They
that
they mean people that you have had a like long term
conjugal is not even a word on that paperwork
No,
because that's
Yeah,
kind
but-
of a weird thing. That's a weird thing.
no,
Especially
but
if
It's
Especially
your
on Tinder.
spouse. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, like I'm not worried about it. Like I don't have to worry
No,
about
no.
it at all.
But it's people
Okay,
that
so
you
two,
have
2 years
lived
of
with.
domestic partners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Submit it. The government thinks about it for 4,
months,
6,
they
12
say.
months, however
Yeah.
long they're saying to get your paperwork back. Then you can go to the gun store, which if they have stock of the thing you want to buy, then you pay them and wait for the RCMP or the CFO in your region to do the transfer, which in Ontario transfers are now taking 4 months is the latest I've heard.
Something ridiculous. Yeah.
And I was talking to a firearms store owner over the weekend, the end of last week, they were on the phone all day waiting to do transfers because they are using the phone in option,
Yeah.
and they have spent the day on the phone.
Should
Yeah,
they get
I'm-
done? Did they
I
say?
just got
hearing-
I just got an email from my gun club. I guess they're not answering the phone right now. So
Well, they are. It's just the problem is that, I mean, like most phone systems, they probably only have so many lines, and it's also probably designed to not take messages. So
Yeah.
if you're
Oh,
on
yeah.
hold for too long, it's gonna just boot you off. And you've got literally, like, now that you have to do paperwork or phone calls for non-restricted items as well. So you have all of those phone calls coming in for people that are obeying the law after the 18th. And you've got all of the handgun purchases all coming in all at the same time. So it is a shit show.
Mhm.
So I know for certain there are people that tried to purchase guns on Monday and couldn't because the RCMP turned the transfer system off the morning of Monday morning before the announcement was made, which historically is a good indicator the government is about to do something terribly gay, so get the lube out.
Yeah.
Happy Pride Month, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And then on Tuesday, I know people that tried to purchase restricteds that we're almost a week later now, and they still haven't got their transfer notices, like the transfer number information. So, getting a pistol is not exactly an easy thing. I think on the outside, you're probably looking at about a year from the day you decided you wanted to buy a pistol to the day that you're legally able to buy a pistol, assuming everything goes well and the government doesn't hold you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the good news is if you already have an RPAL, which you should.
And that
Yeah.
year is also assuming
Yeah.
you're not a criminal or you don't have any
Yeah.
red flags.
Well, and that's what I mean by the
They
government
added-
decides to not
Going
hold you
the
up.
going the legal route.
Yeah,
Right.
didn't they add some stipulations upcoming in regards to that too? Like,
Well, we should look at
Yeah.
the stuff that they're proposing as part of C21. So
yeah, because there's some changes in regards to security checks and background and stuff like that. That honestly, I thought was already part of it.
It
But
was.
Well,
guess
I think
not.
there is,
Probably
and
It's
is.
worse.
Yeah.
the first one is taking away of the firearms license for domestic violence and similar undesirable activities. Domestic violence, criminal harassment. I think there's a couple of other charges that you can catch that will result in a firearms prohibition.
Excessive
So if you-
honking.
No,
Yeah.
Excessive honking.
Stalking is one of them. They were clear about stalking.
Stalking is a form of criminal harassment.
Yes.
Is
but
pedophilia in there?
I don't
No.
think that makes the
Why,
list.
why would they cut themselves
Yeah.
off of firearms?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Implying that anyone in the government actually
gonna
has the
wake
wherewithal
at
to use the
everybody?
firearms.
Yeah.
I bet those
So we
100
already
APC
had that.
permits across the country are all politicians.
We already had the police will take away your firearms license if you commit crimes. That's not new. I'm not sure why they tried to recodify that. It certainly hasn't made it clearer.
I think before you had to
The
go in front of a
modern-
judge to get your firearms license taken away in case of
No.
domestic assault. I thought, wasn't that
No.
the case? Okay.
But maybe in the case of domestic assault, but certainly not in all types of criminal charges because there are many
no.
cases
Just the domestic
where
thing.
if and maybe in the case of a domestic thing, but I still don't think that's true because they have the old tip line, which they now have yellow and red flag laws because before I guess the red flag laws we had weren't good enough. If
Even
you
though they're
ju-
the same, yeah.
if you had a public safety concern, you could just call the RCMP and they would come and take your guns until a magistrate dealt with it.
Yeah, it's option 3 or whatever, yeah. Or 2.
So
Yes.
making it that it had to go before a judge, I mean, yes, but they were still going to come and take your guns way before you ever got to talk to a judge.
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, I know somebody. I'm
Yes,
not
but
gonna say
no.
who, had
The problem
like
is
got
like
a
the
DUI, and their guns got removed until that was resolved.
Yeah,
which
that-
I don't
like-
see how those are terribly related. I mean,
No.
maybe they didn't make the
Well,
best choices,
That
but
Dewey
No, like,
also
okay,
had
maybe
a
they did
handgun
something
involved.
bad.
well, okay. So if there's a firearm involved in the DUI charge, maybe
Yeah.
that was a
That's
Yeah.
different, but
Even
right? Like if I get pulled over for speeding on my way to the office when I don't have any guns in the
No,
truck,
no, no.
that is different than driving home drunk from the range.
Yes.
But even
well,
then,
that wasn't quite how it
like
happened. But
while there
same
was a
idea.
firearm present, it's not a firearms crime. So like for people
That's
that
not
are
how
a
statistics work, Gavin.
but for people that are a danger to themselves or others, I have no problem. And yes, obviously somebody drunk driving is a danger to others, but they're not a danger to others because of their firearms. They're a danger because they're driving drunk.
Which I don't know where that line is for when do we start taking people's ability to own property or exercise their property on their own away from them? Because if we're gonna draw that line, I have a whole bunch of stuff to do with June about when we should probably stop those people from interacting with the public.
But we're also
Think
you're
so.
also
Pedophilia.
you're also implying that you can own property in this country.
I am.
For now,
which,
we can.
is
For
kind of
now,
a stretch
They allow us
there's
to
a very-
think we
yeah.
do
until the government
Exactly,
says we
right?
can't.
for now.
And that's what I mean by like, you're also implying that we can own.
Okay,
stuff.
but at what point? At what
Are
point
we
are you a
allowed to
public safety concern or a detriment to society where the government will interfere with your ability to own property? Because if you have guns, the government's all about trying to take that away.
So
Yeah.
this is what I actually find really interesting. And maybe there's some nuance here that I'm not picking up on. But even in this like Canadian Prime Minister notice on that website, on that website that you kind of put in our show notes, addressing intimate partner violence, gender-based violence, and self-harm involving firearms is the new red flag laws that are coming up. But it's still like, I know that if I was in politics and I was a lefty, I would think all this is being done because gun violence, crimes, all that sort of thing.
Which I agree with. Criminals should be barred the use of firearms,
Absolutely.
which
Okay.
they
But I
already
mean,
are.
We're
so.
splitting hairs here because we've talked intimate partner violence, gender-based violence, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so any violence, if you are charged with any violence, you should not be allowed to maybe have a gun,
Agreed.
right?
Agreed.
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
But that's
However,
already the case.
However, it's still not really talking about things like, oh, hey, your mental health, right? Like, I mean, if somebody is heavily medicated and has had incidents,
They'll hold it against you, but they won't
But
help
the-
you fix it.
So
right?
there's
Exactly.
a fine line where you want to.
Yeah, but okay, so there's a difference between people that are on like regulating medication. Like I know quite a few people that have like various disorders that, they take medication and they will forever that actually stabilizes that. Okay. Like to me, I'm like, oh, okay, well, they've got it under control. Should they be removed from this list? That's not what I'm saying. But if you've got somebody who maybe hits a radar already as having incidents of, I don't know, unsafe behaviors caused by mental health, they're not even remotely close on this list. But yet almost every shooter that you hear in the news has like a serious mental health issue that has come up in the past.
I don't know.
And a lot of them are already on psychotropic medication.
I was just about
Yeah.
to say, if you're on SSRIs, I'm not opposed to you not being allowed near heavy machinery, gasoline, or firearms.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but they don't address that,
Fertilizer.
right?
Yeah.
No, I said SSRIs, not federal agents.
Same.
But different.
Yeah. Right.
So, I don't understand the red flag law change. I don't understand what they're actually going to do to address domestic violence, because this is all a lot of wishy-washy
Well,
language
That's not
to...
the point, though. They're not going to do anything to address this.
No, they're not. They just changed the wording of the law to make it sound like they created a law that didn't exist, when really they've just like...
It's all optics. It's
Yeah.
all optics. There's
And
no
that's the unfortunate
substance
thing.
to it,
That's the
except for the fact that
unfortunate
it's shitty for some people.
Well, the fact that there's a freeze on handguns when the majority of handguns that are used in crimes are ones that even we can't legally purchase in this country to begin with. So stopping me or anyone else on this panel or any of the listeners from buying a particular handgun isn't going to stop shit other than the economy.
Which we already all knew that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
We already knew that was the case, and they're going to continue to do nonsense talking points because that's what this government does. They do nonsense talking points.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no resolution, because if there was a resolution, I mean, if you kind of start to fix a broken system, then people tend to start thinking that they don't need the regulation because the system is broken. So right now, there's a whole bunch of people that rely very heavily on the government for any kind of, enforcement, regulation, ideas, any kind of construct, stability, that sort of thing. And as soon as the government actually starts fixing the problems, the mass populace will not remove their need for the government, but reduce that.
Well, and I mean, most programs that address like the mental health or socioeconomic problems that actually lead to gun violence are things that, like, for you to even notice any sort of measurable difference is like a decade. Well, when your average political term is no longer than 4 years, what kind of government's going to go, hey, we've got this really awesome program that's going to take a decade to take notice? No, they want the thing that's going to get them reelected. So they're going to go with the stupid nonsense talking points that don't do anything, but sound really good and make it look like they're doing something. And then they go, well, we haven't got there yet. You need to elect us just one more time. And I promise you that the things will change and the gun violence will go down and just one more gun law will finally stop it. But we'll never have enough gun laws because
it's optics again. Like,
Yes.
somebody, I had a former neighbor say something to me. He's like, there's no reason. This is an older gentleman, good friend of my dad's. And he's like, there's absolutely no reason why anyone would need assault rifles. And I'm thinking in my head, I was like, you're a farmer. You've grown up as a farmer. I can guarantee that one of your hunting rifles or one of your vermin rifles, whatever, can probably do as much damage as the assault rifle use that Canada has. Like, it's ridiculous, but that's people's mindset, right? So, I mean, even him, who I would consider to be a very intelligent man, he can't seem to understand. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's very judgmental.
What I'm hearing is baby boomers shouldn't be allowed to make laws.
Well,
Yeah.
I just
greatest
think that
generation.
they're maybe still stuck in this idea of like, yeah, I agree. Definitely the generation above the baby boomers was the greatest generation, but
Yeah,
they're still stuck in this idea where they really
boomers are the
absorb
worst.
all of the media, of the media.
But I think that's because they grew up in a time where they could actually, for the most part, trust the
that's
media.
true. There was like integrity.
And
in
semi
like-
sort of trust government.
Well, there was professionalism and all of those things. And like the media, if anything, is what exposed corrupt government, right? And now they're buddies. They're on either side of the glory hole from another, they're
Wait,
Giving
what?
and receiving?
the media and government are one side of the glory hole on one side and one on the other. They're best
I
buds
don't-
like that.
I don't like this
I'm
analogy. Please
using
move
a
forward.
Judaism.
Yeah, no, but
I only like this analogy because it's making Andrew really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I
hate
like about it.
Yeah.
So quick little thing about people having mental health and not being able to own firearms. Unfortunately, like I do have a small little issue with that because it is so easy for your neighbor or someone you've gotten into a disagreement with to make an allegation of some sort about anything mental health related
I think this
nowadays.
is the
It has
problem
to
with
be
these red
clinically
link.
proven. It has to be
No,
Well,
clinically
no,
proven.
that's the problem.
No,
right?
It
it's
does
just
not
not.
in this law, and this is the problem
Right.
with these red and yellow flag laws. Is it becomes?
Yes, that's
we were
true.
touching on this earlier.
Yeah.
It becomes ripe for abuse. You don't like somebody, call the RCMP on them and say they've got illegal guns. Now,
Yeah.
if you live in Nova Scotia, the RCMP probably gave them those guns and is refusing to do anything about it. They may actively be involved in that situation
And giving them
possibly
payouts. Yeah.
will possibly shoot up your local fire hall as a result.
Yeah. But all it
But-
takes is someone to go, man, that Liz was part of a 6-car convoy in our small town. that disrupted
Listen, it was 40
absolutely
cars. 40
absolutely
cars.
nothing.
One tractor.
I
Right,
don't
so,
like
I
the
mean-
cut of her jib, so I'm going to call in that she has mental health problems, and now all of your stuff is taken away. So
But that's
while
not
they're-
new.
No,
Right. So
No.
and
just
I'm not
publicizing
even
it more.
talking. Right. So right in this specific scenario where I'm talking about, it's not even when you own firearms. So there was an issue years and years ago where someone made an allegation against my wife about something bad for whatever. Right. So when we decided to get our firearms license a few years later, there was a bunch of extra hoops to jump through, even though, cops had barged into the house. Apparently we were beating our child. We weren't feeding our child, a whole bunch of stuff, like food everywhere in the house, middle of the night, like go wake up our daughter, take her pajamas off, make sure there's no bruising on her, whole bunch of stuff. Still had to go to the hospital and wait for a doctor to clear us or clear her in this scenario, that there was nothing wrong. And still, 4 or 5 years later, okay, we want to do hunting and shooting. We do our firearms course and everything. And RCMP is like, well, you need to prove all this now. So, right, even though there was a false allegation years ago, and that may have been part of shitty cops at that time. But so I'm not against people with mental health in certain scenarios getting it, but I also have a very hard time believing someone wanting to make a call to the RCMP or your local constituent police force about someone, oh, well, my neighbor's dog pissed in my yard, so I'm going to call the cops. And now they're in this giant legal battle.
Don't you think that there should be consequences for the people that make those calls rather
Yes.
than
Tar and
absolutely.
feathering seems
Yeah.
appropriate.
yeah,
No,
Because those-
hemp
like
is
to be
way
fair
better
here,
than tar.
so my mom homeschooled us, and my sisters homeschool their kids, and my brother-in-law was homeschooled, everybody. And there was probably in the generation of me being homeschooled, there was a huge push for people, the school system specifically, to assume that you were neglecting your child if you were homeschooling them and abusing them. Okay. So same idea, right? When people come at you with allegations, I think that there's a really fine line between, punishing dumb allegations and understanding that there's genuine concern behind some of them. And it's
Right,
really hard to find that balance. And unfortunately, I think you got stuck in the middle of a really big shitstorm.
Yeah.
But there are
and-
people that I think could be filtered through the system properly.
Yeah,
And
right,
It's one of
and I
those
mean,
you
If the
gotta
system
take
wasn't broken.
got to take
Yeah.
the original
it's still a system.
allegation seriously, and I'm glad that they did, as much of an annoyance as it is, because if someone says that abusing a child, that should be taken very seriously
100%.
and investigated. But once it's done and it's determined that that was not the case, and either someone was just mistaken because something was taken out of context or whatever, or it was malicious, then it should be immediately stricken from the record and been like it never even happened.
I'm going to disagree
Or-
that it should be stricken from the record, because I think you're on the right
Yeah.
track up to.
The record.
If
It, there should be a record, and
There should be a
investigated,
record,
like
because if this
and
becomes a
was
pattern,
100%
it's malicious.
Fair.
Absolutely.
This was 100% unfounded, and it was a
Yeah.
bullshit statement.
I'll
I'm
agree
okay
with that.
Right.
But then,
But
you got to
I'm
go
also-
then and turn it around to the people that made the allegation.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm also really happy at this time. My daughter was very young and she used to love blueberries. So she'd have blueberries all over her. And
Nice.
it would look like we beat her, right? Because she got blueberry stains all over her. So thankfully it was a few days after she ate a pint of berries, and she wasn't all blue from blueberries. So I mean, it really worked out in our favor there. But it's just, so that's why there's a very fine line, and I don't know where
Right,
to
but
have
if you
that.
get the
That's where they
first
then-
phone call and the police show up and they do their job and they investigate and they go to the hospital and they're like, okay, well, this doesn't look like. If they get a second call
Especially from
and
the
they
same
show up
person.
and they investigate and it's not an issue and it's the same person calling to complain, it's like, well, okay, this is beginning to what you call a pattern. There's a heuristic that we can involve here.
This would be
Right.
something that would be akin to criminal harassment.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think at that point we do need to talk about consequences for people that are abusing that system. And this is true of people that make false allegations about other types of sexual conduct or treatment of children and minors. There's
Even
any sort
anything
of
in general.
Amber Turd.
Anything in general. You want to make
Yes.
false allegations about anything.
well,
Doesn't
and there's
matter
a difference
what it is.
between genuine concern and making a mistake and the investigating services being like, yeah, we checked, it's not a problem, why'd you do that? And it turns out that you have an ongoing like feud with your neighbor and you're an asshole. Maybe the police want to put that in CPIC so the next time that you call, you get treated differently.
Yeah. And like maybe then like the consequence should be like, well, whatever that person would have been penalized with had the allegations been true, you get it.
Again, I'm
So-
still back to like the best solution is a lack of government. Your
Yeah.
neighbors that you're on good terms with should tar and feather these people.
Yes.
But we're also talking about applying a lot of logic to.
I know, and that's where it all falls
scenario.
down because we're dealing
That's
with government.
That's where
Yeah.
it all gets all fucked
I'm
up,
gonna-
right? Like we're trying to apply logic.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here too.
Oh no.
Is that I know, right? Are you excited?
No, I'm all
It
about
is-
No,
it is-
I'm not. It's not directed at Pierre or your situation. I'm just saying that some of these laws, you have to remember, some of these laws did come into place because there were people that were abusing their children or neglecting their children.
Absolutely.
Right.
The-
Which,
I'm
So-
not against
Solution
that.
to
if
that
you're
is
abusing
what's
children, there's a special place in hell for you, and our
Right.
criminal code should reflect
but the
that.
problem,
Yeah.
right? But that involves government. So
I
that's
know.
really a huge
Not
discretionary. Well, I mean,
Wood
sure,
chipper don't
if there
care.
was an
Wood chipper don't need a
opportunity-
pension.
Right. But I
Yeah.
mean, who then makes those decisions? Right. This is
Hey,
the
I'm
problem
a-
that we've
I'm a
encountered.
person.
I
Yeah.
know, but you're not making
But-
decisions for me. Right. So
The
that's the
community
problem.
makes
So-
that decision.
I don't know, in a
We don't
community,
have
we
small
might.
enough communities. Like, I don't want, okay, guys, like,
Liz and I live
We've
pretty close
talked
together. I
about-
could make those decisions.
no, over my dead body.
See, this is also where having the assault rifle comes in handy.
Right. So, I mean,
Yeah.
here's the thing, like, we kind of have
What is
that
an
a little bit
assault
in our like more
Yeah.
local governments. But let me tell you, if my town, thankfully I live in the country, but if my town was running those kinds of decisions, even on a local level, I'd be screwed. Like, my town is so woke, it's petrifying. Petrifying. And it's a town of like, what, 10,000? Something like that?
Why-
This is
why
why,
so
you
many?
need the assault rifle, because then that's the check and the balance between their abuse of power.
And then I get to come hang
Allegedly.
out at Liz's place and make a defensive position.
Yeah.
I
I
hope
mean-
you don't like your landscaping.
So I mean, at
I
the
don't
same
do
time, like,
landscaping.
so two things with that scenario. I mean, what, 10,000 people? That's, you should just take advice and only talk to people like once every like 6 months.
I mean,
I'm not
Can't do
wrong.
it.
Yeah, I can do it.
I know you don't understand what this word means, but I'm what they call an extrovert.
I am very much an extrovert as well.
I don't.
I believe
mind
that means you
extra
talk to
sauce
more
on
than
my
one
steak.
person.
Yeah. Would
The
never would have
opposite of
guessed that about
Pierre,
you
yes.
guys.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but there is, right? Like, absolutely,
Yeah.
there are these laws and everything and scenarios for abusing children and everything. But like, okay, fine, the cops come by, and in this scenario that I was talking about with me and my wife, like, okay, cops showed up. We're not feeding our child, then we're abusing her. The fridge was full of food, cupboards were full of food. We woke up her daughter in the middle of the night, had to strip her out of her pajamas. There's not a bruise on her. She was, I want to say, maybe a year old. So, she looked healthy I mean, they didn't draw blood, obviously, but just to a regular person, she wasn't starved. She wasn't, she had a healthy belly on her, all that stuff. So right there, that scenario should have just been like everybody left. And applying logic at this point is like, okay, well, now if we were bad people, we thought we got away from it. Cops come back in a week, 2 weeks, and kind of just do a check-in. Hey, we were just checking in, following up that call. Would have been a better scenario or a better way of handling that situation compared to the interactions we had that night.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into details, at least not on the podcast, about, you know, douchebag cops and paramedics and all that stuff. But we could talk
Just
about that.
fair, but when you're dealing with the dregs of society on a daily basis, you
Yeah.
sort of get that tinted
Yeah.
reaction. Well, I'm dealing with everybody who's an asshole, so everybody's an
Confirmation
asshole.
bias.
Well, there is a little bit of that. Shifting gears back to the gun stuff a little bit.
Hey, you wanna
I
hit
think
some
I'm gonna move to
democracy
Alberta.
before we go? Oh,
Huh?
first. All right. Nope. Go ahead. You're good.
Yes, we have to make sure to play hypocrisy bingo, but it's coming. Don't let me forget, Peter. Alberta's chief firearms officer, is she single? Is she looking? She has a $100,000 gun collection that I would like to know more about.
Right?
The Alberta CFO had a lot of negative things to say about this. Many people, it's a major part of their life. It's more than just a hobby. It's a community. It's a whole way of life. And the Alberta CFO would actually like to deal with this in a reasonably intelligent way. The problem is not our access to legally licensed and owned restricted firearms. The problem is the government is allowing smuggled firearms to be brought into this country illegally for illicit purposes. Govern me harder, mommy?
So, I mean, nobody's talking about. Nope, but nobody's talking about. It was what I want to say 6-7 weeks ago about the drone that was caught smuggling. Was it 6 handguns across the border?
Something like that. Yeah.
Well, but then,
Like
how
there
do
was
they-
a quick news article about it, and like that's the end of the conversation. Where's the investigation
well,
into
but how-
that?
Yeah, how do they
Dump
plan
the
to
funding
address
into that. Yeah, dump the funding
where's
into that.
Where's the
Send-
anti-drone smuggling program? Like, where's the
Yeah.
where's the money
Where's
going to
any of
that?
the smuggling program? Because this is the Alberta CFO is right. This is all lip service because taking away my ability to buy I don't know what I'm up to, 18th handgun. I don't know. The Glocks go up to how many? 41? I guess I have 42 handguns.
Yeah, so you could get a 17, a 19, and a 34 and 9, and then you can get a 44 and 22, and then a. they make it
Anyway,
so
the
confusing.
point being, like, if I buy yet another handgun, is it really going to make any difference to anything?
That
I
next
think
one
he
might
should
make you
test
go
it
violent.
out. I think he should just test it out by removing the handguns from his personal security detail. And
Oh no, I
See how he
absolutely. And
feels.
this is much like how I feel about people that do things to children. If you even the appearance of impropriety around children, there needs to be an investigation, and I'm all for like the full weight of the state coming down on that to find out if there's
100%.
something going on, right? And maybe not quite in the way that they got interacted with Pierre, because like let's just assume people aren't douchebags right off the bat. But hey, law of averages, most people probably are.
I've been on the show for a year. I'm pretty decent. I've talked to 2
That's-
people.
not a good.
That's what you call a non
reflection?
sequitur.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
depends who you talk to. Depends. who
Yeah,
you
no,
talk
I don't know.
The CFO is
That's-
absolutely 100% right.
The CFO is
And
right.
Yeah.
all of the things they keep saying that they're going to do in order to counter the actual criminal stuff, they never do. All they do is keep coming after us, which isn't going to do
Well,
anything.
but coming after us is an easy target. We all followed the rules our whole lives, more or
They have
less.
your
I mean,
address. They have your address and they know how many guns you got. That's the easiest snatch and grab compared to any
Yeah.
investigation.
Do they know?
Right,
No.
but
No, they
restricted.
know how many restricted guns you have.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. So
Yeah.
like right now we're talking strictly restricted handguns, right? Like if they were to run anybody in your town of 10,000, they would know that there is exactly, let's say, 2,000 handguns.
But
there.
but they would
They know
know.
the address and how many.
They would know where Liz lives and how many handguns Liz has. They don't know how many methamphetamine dealers are there and have handguns. And it's the town that you live in, so it's probably not an insignificant amount of methamphetamine dealers.
well, at least the people that make it,
unregistered
yeah.
handguns.
But like that's exactly it. Is that if they come after us, there's metrics that they can show that they've done something, right? Like when
Right,
they
there's-
banned the assault rifles, they had a list with this ridiculously large number of things that they banned. So it looks like they've done something.
Hey, remember that time they banned assault rifles and like 100 people turned in their ARs? That was funny.
But like they can
but
say that they've banned 1,500 different models of assault rifles. Meanwhile, those assault rifles are still in the hands of the people that bought them.
Yeah, I have
legally
just as many AR-15s as I did before.
because
I'm just
they
not allowed to
haven't
take them
figured
anywhere.
out how to do anything with it. And again,
Well, and this is the same thing with my handgun.
Is like
This is the same thing, though. I have just as many handguns now as I did before, and I'm thinking about buying more. Now, I can't find any because I was too slow on that. I guess with one other little quick addendum back to the beginning when we were talking about this, the internet, the uninformed part of Reddit or Facebook or something, one of the social parts of the internet that I don't go on, had this idea that the handgun freeze was coming in immediately through an ordering council. The legislation is very clearly laid out. They could have done this through an ordering council. They've decided to do this through legislation because our government can do, at this point, fucking anything through an ordering council because procedural law does not matter anymore in this country. It just doesn't matter. They have decided that as part of the bill, when the bill obtains royal assent, which will likely be in the fall at the current schedule, then the freeze goes into effect, and whatever you have is whatever you have in perpetuity, or until the law changes again.
And I think they're going about it in the correct manner this time because of the pushback and the lawsuits that happened last time. This way, it appears that they're doing the right thing, and they've got the necessary clout to be able to do it. So, their time frame is going to be a little slower.
They're doing it the right way because they have the NDP in their pocket. That's
Exactly.
the only reason.
It's not the right thing to do, but they are doing it in the correct manner.
The procedural way.
Yes, they're doing it the procedural way because they know the NDP is in their pocket and has to do whatever they want because the NDP is broke.
Also, like
Well, and
this way,
sick days. You got to get your
but
sick
this
days.
way, they can also get away because now it's law and not just the stroke of a pen, which is the same difference. But like,
Doesn't make a difference.
So, at
it
least
does
on the-
not.
It doesn't. But if they had gone about it with another OIC, then people would be very angry. Not that we're
because
not
that
very angry,
matters.
but
Last time,
it would all of a
change
sudden
anything.
we're going to just decide that these are illegal with no vote. You get no compensation because this is exactly what's happening. This is delayed.
But how is that any?
Delayed compensation
How is that any
right
different?
now? It's not. But at least to the average person, when they go, well, but Parliament voted on it.
It doesn't matter. The average person can't tell the fucking difference. The average person didn't know that handguns were legal in this country before.
Well, that's fair. But at least
No, the average
on
person
a
thought
basic
they
level,
were
it
legal.
looks as if they've gone about it.
fully
there
legal way,
is no way that if you
and
went
they're not calling it a ban or a confiscation, even though that's what it is.
So quick little rant. Can we start calling
Aaron,
junk
you're not respecting the talking stick.
meat? I have my camera off. You don't want to know what stick I'm holding.
I don't. You're right.
And on that note, let's listen to Andrew for a little while.
Okay.
no,
Go ahead,
I'm so derailed to have a rant, and then we're gonna talk about Jean Charest, and then we're gonna wrap this up because I'm afraid to talk to Pierre's
Bingo.
talking stick.
Bingo.
Go for it, buddy. We're good.
All right, hypocrisy bingo. So, in case you forgot, last week was the deadline if you want to vote for the leader of the Conservative Party.
You can't.
The deadline was last week. The Conservative Party. I have creepy crawlies just thinking about it. But Jean Charest is in the leadership race. For those of you living under a rock that don't parlez-vous français, Jean Charest was at one point the premier of Quebec.
And not part of the Conservative Party.
And a flaming liberal. You thought I was going to say something else because it's June.
I was
Same
going to
bit
mention
different.
that.
Oh, wait a second. Okay, to clarify,
Also from Quebec.
it's not that the vote happened. It was the last minute to actually get your
Sorry,
membership.
the deadline
For
for
the
membership
CPC.
to
You need to
cast
have a
your
membership to vote.
Yeah, because the
Well, you have to
vote
have
doesn't
it-
actually take place until September, right?
Yeah,
September
well, you
is the
need
vote
to
for the
be a
Conservative
member-
leadership election, but you needed to be a
Yeah.
member by this past Friday, the second,
Whatever.
the third,
Second,
the 3rd of June.
whatever. Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah.
If you want to be a Conservative Party member and vote for
don't.
the leader,
Yeah, to vote for the leader.
I don't either, but I gave them my
I think it was like 15
whatever
bucks.
it was. I did the family membership thing, so I get 2 votes because that's how I roll. Head of household, patriarchy, all that good stuff. So I get 2 votes.
Oh, there you go. So you paid more money, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, but I got more votes.
Yeah.
For that 1%.
Well,
Yeah.
the little woman will do as she's told.
Oh,
Until you tell her that.
I was gonna say, hope she's not
It's
watching
all right.
this.
I'm probably
No,
somebody's
I'll
gonna.
probably get a message very shortly. That
I'm fully
ranting
expecting something to
about
get
Andrew,
thrown into my office. Anyway,
Just
the
remember
non
your
sequitur aside, Jean Charest was at one point the liberal Quebec premier. He is now running for the leadership of the Conservatives. Because, oh my God, if you thought Aaron O'Toole was living up to his name, holy shit, Jean Charest is Conservative leader.
I don't think anybody believes that either, though.
Shit.
I think he's got a better than average chance. He is probably going to be top 3.
Really?
Yeah, he will be.
I think he will be top 3. He has name recognition. He was a premier, and he's been in politics for 30
Yeah, but he
years.
was a liberal
he's French.
premier. Oh.
Right, but he
Forget
parlez-vous
that.
français, which makes him electable in a general.
Yeah, but Polyev, check out his last name. He's clearly going to speak French.
Yeah, but his
I'm
wife's
kidding.
from
That's
South
such an
America.
assumption.
Seriously, you should look at his wife. Well, maybe not you, Liz, but like the rest of you.
but maybe.
Why would
She
I
can look at her.
There you
Yeah, I
go.
mean, unless
She can
it's
still see
weird and
color.
twisty.
Did you
I mean,
just
I would have-
assume her sexual preference? That's
I would
I
never do
didn't
such a thing,
realize
especially not in.
that you were talking about sexually looking at
I
every
didn't either.
female you've talked about tonight already.
I mean, I
Hey,
Sort
kind of
that
want to
shit
see
out.
the Alberta. I kind of want to see the Alberta
Yeah.
CFO's gun collection.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. You need
Don't
to
be
sort
crazy.
some
I'd buy
shit
her
out off
dinner to
screen,
go and
bro.
look in those closets.
If she could show me her guns, I would be okay with that.
Yeah. And not metaphorically, like.
No,
quite
I really want to
literally,
play with her
yeah,
guns.
quite
Like, if she
literally.
could bust
I don't
those
think you
out, and
That's the only thing that we're taking at face value from Andrew tonight.
that's
He
fine.
actually means that.
I deserve that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Funny
should
trade.
read we should read a statement from PP though. The
I was like, what?
sounds wet.
leadership candidate for the Conservative Party's Pierre Poilievre.
What do you have?
He released a statement that was broadcast through the CSSA. I like where this is going. Maybe I just read the entire thing in its entirety.
Good.
Liberals like Justin Trudeau and Jean Charest have completely failed on firearms. Their useless registries do not target criminals. My government will respect law-abiding gun owners, put dangerous criminals behind bars, and stop gun smugglers at the border. I will end the absurd liberal airsoft ban. Let's be clear about something else. Liberals are not doing a handgun freeze. Nothing in yesterday's announcement will freeze the flow of already illegal handguns smuggled in from the U.S., which is responsible for the vast majority of gun crimes, according to Toronto police. I will direct resources away from targeting licensed and lawful firearms owners who are trained and tested, and instead bolster the border. I can't read. The border, not the broader. The border against smugglers and put violent criminals behind bars. I will replace this liberal, made-for-Hollywood approach to firearms classification with one that focuses on what the firearm does. Firearms should be classified by what they do, not how they look. And I will rely on an expert task force to define the criteria by which this will occur. And that task force will include farmers, Olympic sport shooters, First Nations, hunters, frontline law enforcement, and technical experts like gun collectors. Signed, PP.
So
Maybe he can
issue
get
I
the
have with
CFO on that committee to do that. Yeah.
only
I mean,
issue have with that- Go ahead.
You have an issue, Pierre?
Yes. So one of the big issues I have with that whole statement was that he was saying legally vetted and trained. So to get your firearms license, you do not need a bunch of training.
Guess you need a weekend
Yeah,
course
you
of
do.
training.
I suppose it
Yeah,
depends
yeah,
on how you
so-
define the training.
Yeah, right. So I'm looking.
It's
at
not
it,
like you can just
as being a
challenge the
firearm,
test. You
Yeah.
have to do the course. That is training.
Now,
right? So you have to as he tells you, okay, this in front of you is safe. Okay, fine, put an empty mag in, this, that, blah, blah, blah. But that's not, in my opinion, that is not considered a trained person.
it is though.
Or a trained,
It's not very extensive,
yeah.
but it is
So,
still training as opposed to like when you go
allowing
do your
anybody in, yeah.
your
Okay,
G1 test. You just go, for those of you in Ontario, that's our graduated licensing system. You literally go and write the test. That's it.
Yeah.
So there's no training involved. You read the book, You go write the test. If you pass the test, you can drive a car while someone else is in the car with you. You can't just do that for a gun license anymore. You can't just.
You used to be able to.
Yeah. So you are required to take the course, which is considered training. Yes, I agree with you in that it is not very extensive. That could be a hell of a lot better and more useful because a bunch of the stuff on there doesn't relate to anything to do with safety.
I don't honestly, the firearms safety training stuff, the FSEO or whatever it is training, the acts and proves stuff that you have to do, classroom 16 contact hours, whatever, it's all awful. But you know what?
And it's mostly theory.
It is an acceptable barrier to entry. In my mind, if someone wants a firearm, they will sit through the weekend course. I know Peter's nodding his head, and you get your minute in a minute. But like, if you want a gun, if you want a firearm, you should have to sit through the course. And I'm okay with, in our current political climate, in the way that we govern this country, if there's going to be a licensing regime, I'm okay with that. I don't like the way that licensing regime is. I don't like this form of government. I don't want there to be a licensing requirement. But if we're going to have socialized medicine and I have to pay for the roads and all of the other things that we do to live in a civilized society, then a minimum barrier to entry to own firearms legally keeps all the riffraff out.
Yeah,
because I run a range. I run a range near the Greater Toronto area, and I want to keep the riffraff the hell out of my range because they're dangerous and they're uninformed and they shouldn't be near guns.
And I agree. I think the licensing system is absolutely stupid and it doesn't save a single life. However, it's also not so onerous that the average person can't overcome that barrier. Like if you can't even be bothered to go do the course.
But again, this is within the confines of our current political environment. If we didn't have the system that we lived in, if we didn't have the government that we had, I would love to be able to, as a non-criminal adult, go and buy a machine gun. I think that would be a great thing to do.
Yes.
But in the meantime, what? Definitely legal?
Should be legal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But in our current political, socioeconomic environment, because I have to pay for free healthcare for degenerates and other undesirables, I think we should have more barriers of entry to more things because people are taking up my resources with things that I am fundamentally opposed to.
Well, that's because there's, again, no consequences for those folks that don't really make the cut.
Folks with an X. Sorry, Peter was shaking his head a minute ago. Do you want to counterpoint?
You kind of touched on it. I understand we live in Canada and everybody likes the socialism we have and they want to have
everybody's a stretch.
Fair point. Big stretch. And it's not at all popular, but I very much like the model of constitutional carry in the state.
No, I 100% agree.
It should be perfectly legal, as you were saying. It should be perfectly legal for a law-abiding citizen of the country who's an adult to carry a firearm.
Yes.
Wherever they want. No license. You don't need one. Just go buy one, carry it.
Yeah.
Live your
recreational
life.
thermonuclear devices for everybody.
I mean, yes. I feel like yes is the answer. Like, if I can afford a CF-18, I should be able to buy and arm a CF-18.
This, to be fair, Peter,
and then I can whip it out and show everybody how big it is.
Law-abiding, right?
Well, and that is the thing. If you are but that should be a barrier to entry. If you are not a felon,
but that's like a basic barrier to entry. You're not a felon. Be a member of society, right? Like if you can't even do that one, you shouldn't be part of society.
Ian has the talking stick up.
Seriously, if you are able to conform to the laws of society, you should have all the rights of society. If you can't conform to the laws of society, therefore you're not a law-abiding citizen, then all the constitutional carry and such would not apply. Yeah. However, up until that point, unlimited freedom until you can't conform.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know conformity.
Because exactly. That
until you start murdering people, then in which case your rights go away. Or if you're same thing, you shouldn't be able to vote if you're in the prison. So, like you to get all your rights stripped away as soon as you cannot stay out of the wrong side of the law, I guess. So up until that point, constitutional carry, then prohibition.
Yeah.
Or ship them off to the penal colonies.
Even if
Yeah,
it's
not
not
opposed to
prohibition, I'm not
Send them to
for
Australia.
or against the whole prohibition side of it. Like if you're a felon, you can't ever own guns again. Because I do think that there is some rehabilitation. So there should be some opening for that, but they should have to
Sure.
work
there's
at least as hard as I did to get my RPAL.
Well, exactly.
At
But
least.
there's definitely some sort of penance that could be done to
Yes.
atone for your crimes and things
Well,
like that, to prove that you are now well adjusted and a contributing member of society and all of the things, especially if you were
But,
young and dumb and made a stupid mistake. Like,
But also
Is there-
society, like the conformity thing that's the slippery slope, right? Because the society is whatever who's in charge decides to tell you what society is.
Yeah.
So like my society is me and the people who live close around me. I don't give a crap what's going on in Toronto.
Me neither.
Make the lake bigger. I don't
Me
care.
either.
I don't
but that's where, I mean,
like that's the
again,
thing, right? So
Well,
smaller communities
I think we've
deciding
talked
what
about
is
Canada's
appropriate
way
for
too-
the smaller
Canada's way
community
too
is-
big to be governed by one
Yes.
government.
yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before. There's at least 6 distinct areas of Canada that could be separated off and run independently.
Yeah,
Should-
should be
minimum
separated
4,
off.
and you can break it up a lot smaller than that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think on the concept of felony, and before we go really deep down this rabbit hole, which I find fascinating, is this whole like gaming how we could better government, because Peter's touching that part of my brain with the tisms.
Slash it. Slash it.
That could be a whole, like,
I am
8-part
inclined to
episode.
agree though. At some point, I don't know that you stop becoming a felon, but that you, at some point, if you can demonstrate that you have been reformed, I am reasonably convinced that you could be reintegrated into society in a meaningful way once you demonstrate that you've gone through some sort of reformation.
And the
As
jury
long
of
as
your
it's not-
peers thinks that you have, agrees to say.
You know what? The jury concept, actually, that is very appealing. Having it done by jury vote is actually probably a very...
And specifically a
Um,
jury of your peers, people who live around you. None of this like
Yeah.
jury stacking. we
Random
have.
selection, yeah.
Yeah, random selection of people near you.
All right, I like this. From now on,
Yeah.
everything is dealt with by jury. I'm okay with that.
We're socialists.
Or government that makes you terrified of classical music.
No, removing
I like
government.
The callback. I like the callback.
Removing
There you
government
go.
would be the
So-
way to go. I think at some point,
I think
if
reducing
you-
government. Let's use that sentence because that statement because we talk about removing government, but then we also talk about like how these laws of enforcement and different things like that. Reality is that there will always be government. That's a little bit of human nature, but it's the extent to which you allow government to interfere in your day-to-day is the point. Right? We've already talked about the idea of a smaller government or smaller geography per government, right? But that's the thing is that why is government so big? Why is it so involved in your
because there's
day-to-day?
money to be made.
Right.
Also
So
industrial
that's the
revolution.
issue.
Have you seen how
Yeah,
much
the
they get
industrial
fucking paid?
revolution.
Industrial society and its consequences have been a disaster to the human race.
Sounds like a quote from book club.
I mean, it
Watch
really
out,
is.
Canada
But
Post.
at least once a week, I get to bust that out, and I really need to memorize more than the first line.
Well, yeah. And
You
also,
are on a
anyone
lot
that
of
thinks that
lists.
book club is just a random selection of books is very mistaken.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to add a Patriot challenge to how much of the manifesto did you memorize this week?
Sounds like some life
goodness.
goals.
I mean,
Learn a new skill.
I bet I could memorize the whole thing. I bet I could recite it.
If
I mean,
5-year-old
shit, I
Jew-
learned the periodic table in college. I could probably do a manifesto.
If 5-year-old Jewish
Tuning
kids
next
can recite the Torah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure we can do it.
It's true.
All right, tune in next week to hear me badly quote Uncle Ted.
Thought you were going to say the Torah for a second. We'll get Benny for that.
Yeah.
So let's have a
I think I know the words to
Peter?
Aga Navila.
You're on Peter. You're on Torah duty. Andrew's on
Yeah.
manifesto duty.
Implying I wasn't already.
Yeah.
I'm going to
You
write
just
my
gotta-
own.
You're gonna
Hopefully it
write your
doesn't
own
take you so long.
manifesto.
Oh, don't say that
Manifesto,
sort of
it'll
thing.
just be an open letter.
If you
Manifesto
Jesus is-
implies I do something afterwards.
if you write
I'm
one,
writing
we
an
can read
open
it
letter.
for book club. Yeah.
An open letter, and then we'll read it at book club. Okay.
I mean, Professor Kaczynski's book is the only book that required 2 episodes to get through.
And also
Some
to
barely
panelists.
require one. Yeah.
Speaking of book club, next month, the June book, 48 Laws of Power. Find out how deeply upset we can make Peter about something. I think June's going to be a fun month. Not for that reason, but because of book club.
Yeah.
And,
I think it'll
July-
generate some good
I guess that means
discussion.
I actually have to read it.
Yes.
I guess the July book, since we have our regular assortment, are we going with Unflinching?
I'm good with it.
We could talk that through a little bit more, but
Okay.
I'm fine with whatever.
Check the show notes. By the time the podcast gets out, we're going to do a Canadian military book for July. So check the show. Check your local listings to find out what we're doing for July book club and get your order in early.
It'll be on Discord too.
Will it?
Yes.
Excellent. Peter volunteers to put it on Discord.
You got it. By volunteers, I mean tags better Andrew.
Yeah, he'll figure
Close
that
enough.
out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Close enough. Speaking
He's
of,
the Discord autiste. Yeah.
if you want to come and hang out with us, talk some mad shit, or give us suggestions for book club, you could email us. And if you need technical support, I will provide you personalized technical support as soon as I fix my email, which is right up there on my to-do list. You can email us, feedback@canadianpatriotpodcast.com, or you can come hang out with us on our Discord server. The link to the Discord is in the show notes. Every episode of the show notes is on the website. If you go to the website, they're all numbered conveniently. So you're listening to episode 352 today. So if you go to the website, CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/CPP352, today's show notes will appear like magic. Usually within a couple of hours of the show being available, because some internet stuff has to happen.
Sounds
It's a
like
series of
thing.
tubes. I don't have time to explain it.
Pneumatic tubes.
Well, whatever. A
Yes.
series of tubes nonetheless.
Yeah.
Let's
You know, like those old office buildings where they had that tube and
You
put
mean
the
every
note in it,
hospital in Canada?
and they close it. It goes thunk. It's
Yeah,
one of
every
those.
Costco.
That's
Hospitals.
yeah. The grocery store near me still has those.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Costco's. Yeah.
well,
Hey, if
let's
it ain't
go
broke,
down.
Don't fix it.
Let's go down the list. We'll do this in the same order that we did. What are we drinking? We'll start with Liz. Where can everyone find you?
Best place is probably on the Instagram, Liz_Fawcett 9876. I do have Facebook, but I'm not on there too much. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right. I don't know if this is the correct order, but I'm going with it. Gavin, where can everybody find you?
Best place to find me is also on the Instagrams, Urbex GTA. Or if you have a time machine, you can go back in time to last Saturday and go hang out with me at the gun club and shoot really big guns. But if you have a time machine, I'd go back a little bit further as well.
Yeah. I want some machine guns. Peter, where would your time machine go?
2 weeks into the future, where we have Ace and Boris coming to Steinbach, Manitoba for mixed skills class, doing some combat, some escapology, and overall good time for 2 days. June 18th to 19th. It's gonna be a good time. So come on down there, or follow me on Discord, or I'll be around the Discord, I guess. Do you follow there? I have no idea how it works yet.
I don't understand Discord.
Yeah.
I leave that to other
I'm
Andrew.
Wild Turkey on the Discord anyway. Or
Yeah.
Instagram and Twitter at the Moran Life.
Ian, where can everybody find you?
You can find me for the Discord for both CPPs under the Island Retreat, and also on Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for the Canadian Prepper Podcast.
What's that
It may or
about?
may not also be Alan.
What's that?
May or may not be Alan. I tend to mention CGN the odd time, and I think next week we're having Gavin on.
Yes, where we will cover all of your latest CGN purchases.
It's very few and far between now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Short episode. Short episode.
Yes. Pierre, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram. If you watch the show live, my Instagram handle is somewhere over me. But I've already done my due diligence for the next 2 months. I don't have to talk to anybody new. So you're going to be on the waiting list. But
Pierre is not looking for new friends right now.
No, but if you need some t-shirt or design or potentially more to come, off the wall customizing, we're on TikTok, Talk, Instagram, a bunch of stuff for off the wall customizing at gmail.com.
If you want to get in touch with me, the best place to do that is ragnaroktactical.ca. Come and buy some tactical stuff. Use the discount code Patriot at checkout. Save yourself some money. Tourniquets and bandages and high-speed gear pouches and plate carriers and all that kind of good stuff. And if you somehow found my phone number somewhere on the internet and called me for a good time, yes, I would like to come to your gun club. I got a random unknown caller today that was like, do you do firearms training? And I was like, well, I used to. Do you have a gun club? Could I come hang out? So if you've got a
gun collection, I can come look at.
Well, yeah. if you've got a large collection of firearms that you would like to show me in a one-on-one kind of a basis, that could be arranged.
He might even buy you dinner.
I might buy you dessert. We'll see how it goes. But if you have a gun club and you would like me to come and do some firearms instruction while guns are still legal in this country, we could do that too. Send me an email. Feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Get in touch with me. Use the discount code Patriot at checkout when you're shopping at Ragnarok Tactical. That's my little tax shelter. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. We couldn't get Rod on the show tonight. He just did a podcast. He was pretty burned out talking about gun stuff. He promised me that as soon as the firearms laws get better and he has some free time, he will get right on to getting on our show.
If we're waiting for the firearms laws to get better, it's going to be a minute.
That's the joke. For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you are a small fringe minority with unacceptable views. I need Gavin's